Welcome back students. As in the previous video, I tell you about the respiration, what does this mean and how many types of respiration. In this topic, we will discuss about little bit more detail. What do you mean by aerobic and anaerobic? Now aerobic respiration, A, that means there is a presence of oxygen. Okay. Now in aerobic respiration, in the presence of oxygen, what will happen? We breathe the air and we take in oxygen. And in that presence, it goes to the cell, and in the cell what is there? The digested absorbed food. Now this absorbed food is broken down with the help of the oxygen. Now oxygen rich air reaches the lung, and the oxygen that passes through the lungs to the blood, and after that transported to whole body parts through blood, and ultimately it will reach to the each cell, and this will help to break down the food and the respiration. So ultimately we can say the respiration which takes place in the presence of oxygen, that is aerobic respiration. On the other hand, that you can see that oxygen from the air we breathe in, digested food material is there, then ultimately what we are saying, that is a respiration, and oxygen is involved, then we can say aerobic. What is the product of this aerobic respiration? Glucose, that the food component in the cell. Oxygen will reach to the cell, it will break down into carbon dioxide, water, and ultimately the energy. So this main thing is important. It should be asked to you, what is the end product of the aerobic respiration? Secondly, the anaerobic respiration. Ana, the word ana added to the aerobic, that means there is an absence of oxygen. So in the absence of oxygen, this process takes place. The energy is released, but in the absence of oxygen. In this case, what will happen? The main organism, single cell, the fungus, yeast is example that survive in the absence of oxygen, that they are known as anaerobic organisms. They get the energy through the anaerobic respiration. Next, in the absence of oxygen, what will happen? Again, the food that is there in the cell, that is a glucose. So glucose will break down and it will transform into the, what is the end product? Alcohol and the carbon dioxide. Now glucose, without the use of oxygen, it will turn into alcohol, carbon dioxide and energy. So this is also on the exam point of view, it can be asked to you, what is the end product of anaerobic respiration in the case of yeast? Yeast that will yield the alcohol and carbon dioxide. Yeast, that is for this purpose, on the basis of the end product, that is alcohol and carbon dioxide, the gas is there released. This is used in the bakeries. Why? To help to rise in the dough, in the you can say in the sugar contained with the dough, and producing the carbon dioxide and alcohol. That process is known as fermentation. So the material or the food product is being with yeast is added, actually it is undergoing the fermentation. Okay, so that's why you can see the breads, the dough is they are added the yeast that acts as a rising agent. That's why they are spongy and fluffy, because as there the carbon dioxide, that gas is released, the end product, it will trap in the dough and causing it to rise, and alcohol which is produced during the fermentation is getting evaporated, and during the breakdown of that baking process. Yes, you can see over here that this is the yeast, it is added to here to the dough, and it is giving the rise to the dough. Next over here, as you can see, it's used in the bakeries, and similarly it is used in the breweries, that is as it releases the alcohol during respiration, so it is also used for making the wine and beer. Anaerobic respiration also occurs in the muscle cells when we are doing the heavy exercise. And what is the end product in this case? That is a lactic acid. And lactic acid that is produced in this case in the absence of oxygen, because when we are doing heavy exercise, we breathe fastly. So the oxygen carrying capacity becomes less. So in that case, the muscles respire anaerobically because they need energy. So anaerobically they respire, and lactic acid and energy is the end product. You can say over here, and that's why we feel muscle cramps after a heavy exercise due to the accumulation of lactic acid. That is a temporary deficiency of oxygen. So ultimately you can see how the chain carries on. Heavy exercise, that demand for the energy increases. Okay, then body requires the respiration, the respiration requires oxygen, but here there is limited supply of oxygen. Now here the muscle cells will respire anaerobically, that is without oxygen. That's why we feel the muscle cramp, that is sharp pain, and to get the relief from it, we have a hot water bath or massage. So the partial breakdown of glucose that produce the lactic acid and accumulation of lactic acid that cause the muscle cramp, as I say you before. So this is all about the anaerobic respiration in the muscles. This is again the flow chart that tell you that muscle cramp, hot water bath, what it will do? It will increase the blood circulation, it will increase the supply of oxygen to that area, to the muscles. That's why there is a complete breakdown of lactic acid into the carbon dioxide in water, and ultimately we get relief. So it can be asked to you that how the muscle, from the muscle cramp we get relief. So end product of all these are very important. You should know that aerobic respiration, glucose in the presence of oxygen, it will lead to carbon dioxide, water and energy. And anaerobic respiration, in the case of yeast, glucose will break down in the absence of oxygen. It will give the end product, that is the alcohol, carbon dioxide and energy. That's why they are used in the breweries as well as in the bakeries. And anaerobic respiration in the muscles, end product is the lactic acid and the energy. So this was all about the aerobic and anaerobic. Again the same thing. This is the flow chart that in the tabular form that helps you to recall that in aerobic and anaerobic, oxygen requirement, that is in the presence here, and anaerobic, absence of oxygen. And breakdown of food is complete, but here in anaerobic, that is partial breakdown. End product is the carbon dioxide, water and energy, but here alcohol, carbon dioxide, energy in the case of yeast, and lactic acid and energy in the case of muscles. And energy produced, that is large amount of energy produced in the aerobic, but less amount of energy produced in the anaerobic respiration. So ultimately you can say that there are different types of end products in this aerobic and anaerobic respiration, and that is very important, the types, the process and the end product. So you should know the definition, the end product and how this process goes on. So you can say the aerobic respiration pathway that depends on the oxygen. Aerobic organisms, they need to ensure that there is a sufficient intake of oxygen. Now breathing, that means we are taking in the oxygen. So breathing is a part of respiration. It's not a, you can say the broad term, but respiration is a broad term. So respiration is ultimately the taking out of energy from the breakdown of the food. We'll meet you soon in the next coming videos. Thank you.